Alrighty, well, welcome everybody. Thank you for attending today. Oh, I think Susan, can you mute your mic there? Okay, perfect. Thank you everybody for attending today for this webinar, Introduction to Corporate Giving. My name is Andrew Daphne and I'm the Instruction and Outreach Librarian at the New Jersey State Library. We have two panelists on today, Lee Clark, who is our Funding and Information librarian. She will be able to give you, if you have any questions about what the library has in terms of nonprofit resources, funding information, things like that, or if you would like to schedule an appointment to use some of the programs that we're going to be talking about today, you can certainly reach out to her. Our presenter today is Susan Sharoma from Candide, and she's going to be talking about like the what's available through them, through the Funding Information Network and all of that. So before we get started, there are just a few housekeeping items we need to go through. There are handouts for this presentation, and you can find them in the handout section of the GoToWebinar dashboard. If you have any questions, we will be taking them at the end of the program, but you can ask them using the questions box in the dashboard, or you can email me at adoffney@njstatelib.org. There will be a survey at the end of this. You will be prompted at the end of the webinar as well as in a follow-up email. So if you have time, we would greatly appreciate any feedback that you're able to provide. And if you have more information about just corporate giving in general or anything that's covered today, you can email Susan at susan.sharoma@candid.org. So for those of you who have never used GoToWebinar, this should be the dashboard that you see. If you don't see it right now, look for this orange box with a white arrow. It may have been collapsed, so you can use that to open and close the dashboard, and it's either going to be at the top left or top right hand side of your screen. If you have any issues figuring anything out, you can use this raise hand button and I will get in contact with you directly and hopefully work out anything that's going on. Your handouts are going to be right here in the center, so you can press this arrow here to drop it down and then click on each handout to download it. And then for the questions, you can just enter your questions here, and as I said, we'll take them at the end of the program. So that is it for what I have. So Susan, I'll give you control and you can take it away.
Okay, terrific. I'm going to click show my screen now. All right, everybody should be looking at a PowerPoint slide that says Introduction to Corporate Giving.
Looks
Let me
good.
know if we are not looking at it. Thank you so much, Andrew. So welcome to Introduction to Corporate Giving. Thank you so much for spending your lunch hour with us. This is a 1-hour class. Actually, we're going to go over an hour today. But essentially, we're going to learn the basics of corporate giving, and I hope also to introduce you to philanthropy this afternoon, as well as some of the resources at the New Jersey State Library and at candid.org. Whoops. All right, so today we're going to broadly discuss 3 things. Why companies give, what are the different options for getting corporate support, both cash and non-cash, how companies give, why companies give. While many corporations do give for basic philanthropic reasons, corporations have motivations for giving as well. So we hope to discuss what some of these motivations are and what companies are looking for in their nonprofit partners. How to find corporate partners, how to find corporate support. So with traditional private foundations, at one point you usually submit an application for a proposal, or sometimes you submit your proposal directly. And if your proposal application is accepted, it's either going to be a yes or no. With companies, there are many other avenues that you can go down with, and there are many ways that you can develop relationships with corporations. So we're going to look at some of the tools available for identifying good corporate partners. And one of the databases that we will be mentioning today is a database called Foundation Directory Online Essential. This summer, the New Jersey State Library is giving you remote access to Foundation Directory Online Essential, and you will be using that database from your homes to look for not only private foundation prospects, but you'll also be looking at it to tease out some corporate prospects for your work. So when we look at how companies give, generally we start off with this cash and non-cash. From the Giving in Numbers statistical review of corporate giving, 82% of corporate giving is cash. But, and this is a big but, when you look at your relationships with corporations, of course we want cash, but if you can't get cash, go after the non-cash corporate support. And this publication comes from a national group that encourages corporate philanthropy amongst the larger multinational and corporate givers. So again, when we look at how companies give, cash and non-cash. Most of their giving is cash, but non-cash is very important to the picture. If we started to break this down even further, you would see that corporations give sometimes through their company-sponsored private foundations, and that would account for the foundation cash piece of this, 34%. Direct cash becomes 48%. Non-cash is going to remain at about 18%. So when we look at this pie chart from Giving in Numbers, the 2018 edition, think about which companies have company-sponsored foundations that you might apply to. Think about which companies have direct corporate giving programs, marketing departments, public relations departments that you might get cash from. And also think about what sort of non-cash contributions can you get from private companies. You might be able to work them up to cash. All right, so when we look at the cash contributions, how does that break down? Think of cash as private foundation grants, and in particular for today's conversation, we're going to look at those companies that set up company-sponsored foundations, which act in much the same manner as other private foundations act. Their giving is very transparent. These company-sponsored foundations have to file a public tax return, which details the grants that they paid out. So we're going to look at these major corporations and ask ourselves, am I dealing with a for-profit business that has a company-sponsored foundation? And certainly the database, Foundation Directory Online Essential, makes identifying the company-sponsored foundations very, very easy. We're looking at companies as well this afternoon as to their corporate contributions. This would be cash that perhaps comes from a direct corporate giving program or a public relations department, marketing department, PR department. Corporate sponsorships. You have events, you have programs. Can we get a company to come in and sponsor that event? There's a win-win for you. You have the cash that helps you produce the event and program. And it's also a win-win for the corporation to sponsor your events because you will be promoting them on your brochures. There'll be signs, web recognition for the company for sponsoring that terrific activity in your community. At a more sophisticated level, we've got this cause-related marketing concept. This is where a for-profit business aligns itself with a particular cause. Think about when going to the supermarket becomes easier and more comfortable for us. Just start, take a look at some of the products out there and, see which products have certain companies and causes that they're using to market. I think the American Heart Association has the American Heart Association logo. American Heart Association is a major nonprofit organization. Take a look at some of the cereal products. On which cereal products do you see an American Heart Association logo affixed to the product wrapping? Now, companies have employees. Studies show that if your employees view their corporations that they work for as good corporate citizens, as good neighbors in their communities, that the employees will be motivated, they will stay longer, and they will be more productive. So, some companies, in addition to their corporate contributions and sponsorships, will match the gifts that their employees make to the employees' favorite nonprofit organizations. I've even seen parent-teacher associations in our public schools effectively use employee matching gifts programs to double the amount of money that's coming into their organization. So you can definitely use Foundation Directory Online Essentials to tease out which foundations, which company-sponsored foundations and corporates have employee matching gifts programs. So if I'm an employee of, possibly JP Morgan, if I give my local school $50, my employer will match it. And that has doubled the amount that goes into my favorite nonprofit organization. So cash is fantastic. When we look at corporations, think about the different types of cash contributions that they can make to your organization. All right, so we have this topic of non-cash contributions. Definitely not to neglect non-cash contributions. So what is this all about? This is your ability to get a corporation, to get a private business in your neighborhood to donate products, food to your event. Possibly they can donate, help you put together those goodie bags. Can you get space donated for your event? Can you get loaned talent at the executive level or the legal level or the accounting level loaned to your organization? So non-cash can be pretty broad. You can get quite creative with this. Look at product donations. Along the lines of employee volunteerism, think about pro bono services that might be offered to your organization. Do you need legal help? Do you need accounting and finance and marketing help? Employee volunteerism is a great way to involve employees at all levels to get together to do a fun project for you. Can you get employees at major corporations to come in and help you paint park benches? Can you get employees to come in and help you deliver food bags? Space is a big one. You might not be able to afford to rent a performance space or office space. Can you get that space donated to you? Some of the best people I know at getting non-cash contributions, happen at a very grassroots levels. I'm definitely going to mention the public schools that I see. When you have parent leaders who have an event at their schools, they just go out there and before you know it, they're asking companies in the neighborhood to donate products. Special events, auctions, you might have to ask around and see if companies will donate airplane tickets, major products for your auctions. Lots of different ways to look at product donations, employee volunteerism, pro bono services, and space. All right, so we've got us thinking about our relationships with corporations. Do we want cash contributions? I would go with the cash first. If I can't get cash, let's get product donations, employee volunteerism, space, maybe have them produce your newsletter. Let's work them up to a cash contribution. Now, companies are institutions, and they're very particular type of institution. They are for-profit organizations. What is motivating a for-profit organization to give? There are some definite tax advantages to corporations giving to 501c3 nonprofit organizations. So if you're representing a nonprofit organization today that has its 501c3 tax status, perfect position to go out and solicit funds from the public. You're in a good position to get grants from private foundations. You're in a good position to get grants from individuals if you're a 501c3, and certainly you're in a good position to get grants from private companies, from for-profit businesses, because written into the tax law, there are some advantages for corporations to give to nonprofit organizations and have that type of relationship with our particular field. Companies, particularly the larger companies, will think hard and think strategically about their business objectives. What is it? What does it mean for, let's take a paint company like Benjamin Moore? Should Benjamin Moore align their corporate contribution programs with veterans? Or are they better off aligning their corporate contribution programs to arts and culture or to specific museums? So corporations have business objectives. They are going to look at the type of nonprofit you are representing, as well as the community that you're representing and your reach. And they're going to wonder, what's in it for me? That's WIFM, W-I-F-M. What's in it for me, this major corporation, to be working with this particular nonprofit or this particular nonprofit issue or this particular geographic area? How can their philanthropic work with you advance their business objectives? How does working with this particular community or this particular nonprofit or this particular nonprofit cause advance their bottom lines and help them to increase their customer base and increase their profits? Some companies will give because it helps to increase their visibility in the neighborhood. So, think sponsorship. Certainly, one of the wins for corporate sponsorship is you're going to help promote and raise the visibility of that business in your community. Think, baseball leagues, soccer leagues at a very, very local level. They do a great job getting local businesses to support their programs. And in exchange, that local businesses is recognized on a website, as well as when the whole neighborhood goes out to watch a soccer game, we're going to see these signs that say this business is sponsoring this particular team. So corporate visibility, very important. Many companies give because they want to be good corporate citizens. Studies have shown that when the public views a corporation as a good neighbor, it's going to help them to increase their bottom line. Getting back to the tax advantages, I think corporations can deduct up to 10% of their pre-tax dollars in terms of the contributions that they give to nonprofits. So, the key there is know yourself as a nonprofit organization. What is your tax status? If you are a 501c3, when the government gives you that particular type of nonprofit tax status, already from a fundraising viewpoint, you are set up to accept public support. Hence, if I give a 501c3 $500, that's something that I can deduct on my taxes. If I'm a corporation and I give cash to my local charity and they were 501c3, I know these donations can be deducted. So are you a legal nonprofit organization? Let's find out, what is your tax status? Advancing business objectives along the lines of why companies give, what's the WIFM, what's the connection between corporate gifts and who corporations pick to partner with. Think about your metrics. What audiences and constituents do you have that have some overlap with what the company's all about? Does that company have subsidiaries and divisions in your county? Is that company headquartered in your county or your city, town, village? Does the company do business with your community? And the next time you take a drive in your neighborhood, just start paying attention to the banks that are in your neighborhood, start paying attention to major national chains that have locations in your neighborhood. Why would companies want to connect with our constituents? What do your constituents bring to, and I'm going to use this phrase, the bottom line of these corporations? What do we have in common with that corporation? Are you an environmental group? Are you an arts organization? Are you representing a hospital or medical center today? What type of nonprofit are you representing? The issues that are crucial to your existence, is there any overlap between those issues and what a company wants to invest in? So most companies will have websites. If they're public companies, I should say many companies have websites. There's some corporations that are very, very difficult to research. But if you're dealing with a publicly traded company, easier to do the research on them because there's just so much more financial information about them floating around on the internet. Our database, Foundation Directory Online Essential, is a good springboard that you can use to tailor your searches to pull out the corporate support. But it's just a springboard. You've actually got to go out there and brainstorm about lists of companies that are actively giving in your area. Advancing their business objectives. You're going to have to convince them, so know your own metrics. How many people read your website? How many people do you serve each year? Do you have a population group that overlaps with that company's products? What's the advantage to that company to be working with your particular nonprofit organization? When we talk about increasing corporate visibility, that one actually does feed back into their bottom line. So how will you tell the world that if they are sponsoring your event, how will you tell the world that they are doing this and they're, good company for doing this? So you definitely, sponsorships, that is all about your ability to help that corporation be more visible, and then we're going to think about your nonprofit. How visible is your nonprofit in the community? Do you have a website? Are a lot of people coming to your website? Do you have a Twitter account? How many followers do you have? If you produce an electronic newsletter, which is, these days, probably a little faster than more of a traditional paper newsletter. If you produce an electronic newsletter, how many subscribers do you have? So when we think about sponsorships, how visible are you in the community? How large of an audience do you have? And corporate managers always want to know, how do you intend to get the name of their company out in front of the public? Okay, to be good corporate citizens, we should actually look this up. Exxon, major oil company. Uh, there have been in that industry a couple of major environmental disasters. You can definitely use our database to figure out, are oil companies investing in environmental causes? Where does that get them? Or are they more likely to invest in art projects and community development projects? So companies give because studies show that if the general public views a corporation as a good global citizen of the world, is they're making a profit, but they're also making the world a better place to live for all of us. Um, if the public has that perception of corporation, chances are it's going to help them attract better employees, better skill sets. It's going to help them keep their employees for a longer amount of time, and it's going to help them increase their bottom line. So you are concerned, particularly, from a fundraising, public relations um, eye, you are concerned about how the public and the funding base views your work as a nonprofit. Corporations are concerned about how you, the public, view their work. And there are groups out there like the Center to Encourage Corporate Philanthropy. This was established by Sandy Weil and Paul Newman years ago. A group like that is always reaching out to major corporations to get them to be more involved and more strategic about their giving. We want companies to give back to their communities. So you might even start those philanthropic conversations with your local branch manager. You might start it with a lot of the private businesses that are operating in your community. So when we developed this class, it was more like a large look-see at what major national, international companies were doing. Truth of the matter is, if you asked a business librarian, you might be hard-pressed to get an answer of how many for-profit, public, and private companies there are in your own county, city, state. So corporate giving is definitely should be considered as a source of support for your nonprofit. The mantra these days is to diversify your funding stream. So you want to make sure you're not missing out on any individual gifts. You want to make sure you're not missing out on any government grants as well as private foundation grants. You want to make sure you've had that discussion back in your office about, is it time for us to begin looking for corporate sponsors? So who's in your backyard? Some companies you're going to know about, others you have to actually, look at your Chamber of Commerce membership list. Go to the library and review standard business directories. Talk to other nonprofit leaders and find out what the deal is with corporate support in your particular town. How do we strive to enhance the local community? So this can be asked. You can definitely look at what a company says on their website, look in the About Us area, look for philanthropy, look for corporate philanthropy, look for the marketing or PR department, look for social responsibility. A company, if they have a website, if they are making the effort to be a good corporate citizen, you'll usually see something on their website about what they're doing with their philanthropy. So how do these corporations, how do these smaller family-owned businesses strive to enhance their local communities? And when you look at your network of community leaders, and part of this is who you know, and it's your networking ability, how deep is it? Because when a corporation sets up a relationship with you, they're also looking at your nonprofit from the perspective of, how can you get them networked in your community? Who do you know? Do you have a strong network of leaders that they can reach out to? So being a good corporate citizen is definitely something that larger businesses have conversations about. So you're going to brainstorm about which companies might make natural partners for you. You're definitely going to have to use your business research skills. At one point, our database, Foundation Directory Online Essential, which is the database that you're using remotely while we're all still kind of working from home. It's wonderful. You can just easily set your search up. We'll do a demo in a bit to pull out those companies that have employee matching gifts program. You can use that database to find which companies have employee volunteer programs. You can definitely use that database to find out which companies have corporate giving programs and company-sponsored foundations that give to New Jersey for arts or human services, or who supports corporate-wise, who is supporting children and youth in New Jersey. You can also drill down to your particular county in New Jersey to see what kind of corporate contributions are coming in. But you've also got to be a good business researcher. Just start brainstorming with others. Talk to your librarians. The New Jersey State Library has a fantastic business collection as well as pretty good online librarians. You can talk to the librarians about finding a list of businesses in your area. Who would be the natural corporate partners for you? Now, you're a nonprofit, so I'm going to assume you have a board. You're going to shake your board members up and down and figure out which of your board members has better connections to the corporates in your neck of the woods. So you're going to use your board members to find corporate partners. You're definitely using Foundation Directory Online Essential remotely. By the way, when the New Jersey State Library reopens and it's safe for the public to come back into the library to do research, Ms. Clark has a very powerful database inside the library. It's called Foundation Directory Online Professional. That literally is going to cover you for 225,000 grant makers, including at least 9 or 10,000 corporates. Again, while we're in this phase back approach to reopening New Jersey, you'll be using Foundation Directory Online Essential at home. That database has, I believe, I usually tell people it has 107,000 foundations in it, but my data people tell me, it's closer to 200,000. So, definitely both of those products are really good tools for finding corporate partners. You're also going to be talking to your business librarians because you at one point are going to want to look through lists of who's in your neck of the woods. So, and there are definitely other products that you can use database-wise that are sitting there in the New Jersey State Library. But, let's see what you can do at home. Certainly, you have a Chamber of Commerce. I usually, if I don't know a community that's asking me to help, one of the first things I do after I've used up all my library resources is to look at the Chamber of Commerce and to go through their membership list. So, corporate partners. Number one, you've got to start using Foundation Directory Online Essential. So there is some database searching that you will need to do this summer. But take a look at the companies based on where they are. I personally like the geographic approach. I'm going to figure out where's headquarters, where are all their subsidiaries and divisions. If you drive around the neighborhood and you start looking at, I'm going to pick on banks right now because they're easy to identify. Just driving around a community, do they allow the branch manager the ability to do a sponsorship or give a small gift or get involved, or do they allow the branch manager to get their employees involved with local nonprofits? Do they make the branch managers serve on the board of a local nonprofit, or are the local branches going to say to you, you know what, you need to speak to our corporate giving program in such and such city? So, but do have those conversations. You'll look at their websites, you'll see what Foundation Directory Online tells you, but one place to get started is with having conversations in your community. So I want to look at your community and figure out who's got the privately owned businesses, who's got the publicly owned businesses, and are they headquarters, subsidiaries, divisions? Now, what you do, again, how well do you know your nonprofit. You know your nonprofit pretty well. You have a good sense of what kind of community reach you have, and you definitely have a good sense of, you know, how you market your work. What do you do? What's a natural fit? And of course, we want to look at what they do. Now, I wish I was in the room with you because you're in the state of New Jersey. Um, where are the big new businesses in the state of New Jersey? Did the state of New Jersey legalize medical marijuana? Did the state of New Jersey legalize recreational marijuana? Traditionally we think oil, gas, big financial companies, the insurance companies, the pharmaceutical industry. We look at alcohol, tobacco industries like manufacturing industries, retail industries, McDonald's, fast food industries. Because marijuana, I believe, is still illegal at a federal level. What we're seeing with that particular industry, medical marijuana, the recreational marijuana, if it's legal in your state, that could be a whole new business sector that you might want to think about whether or not there's like an alignment between what they're about and what you're about. Once it goes legal, there aren't going to be as many issues as there are right now. Of course, there actually with marijuana, there's definitely a social justice issue. But when you pick these companies to be your partners, you got to do your research. Like with the medical marijuana, you look to the West Coast, California. Some of those groups are giving to food banks. They're giving to homeless shelters because they see the issues in the communities that they're operating in. Some of those companies are like Ben and Jerry's, which is, they're very forward with their philanthropy and their social justice issues. So some of the marijuana groups out on the West Coast are using intermediaries because still from the perspective of a nonprofit, if you take marijuana money, or it's the same thing as if you take McDonald's money or gun money, how is your board going to feel about that? Because it's the population group you serve. So, you have to look at companies from who are the standard companies that are always giving, like industries, and try to think about, what industries are up and coming these days that maybe there's a potential for corporate philanthropy 10 years down the line. It's always about like building your relationships now. So, I want to know what your nonprofit does. Are you an arts and culture group? Do you work with veterans and military personnel? Do you work with economically disadvantaged people? Are you representing a religious organization today? We have nearly 1.8 million nonprofits in the United States and a very, very diverse nonprofit sector. Same thing with the corporate sector. They're pretty diverse. We want to try to figure out kind of, are there any natural synergies between what these companies do from a business perspective and what you're all about? So, what do you do? What do these corporations do? Is your board and the community that you serve going to be happy if they see that you're taking corporate money from X, Y, and Z firm? So, there are some things we do. If I ran a PTA, am I going to take McDonald's money? I don't know. The case could be made on both sides, but I'm going to have that conversation with my constituents, my senior staff, about whether or not to take that contribution. So, treat corporations the same way you would treat a major donor coming into your organization. Do you want to accept that money? Is it appropriate? So you have to do your research on these companies to figure out if they're natural partners for you. So, I've gone on a little bit today. I want to quickly take a look at a slide, and then we're going to start to do some searches. There are 2 handouts that you can download. You actually are probably going to receive copies of those handouts, possibly when you get the survey, but we do have handouts for this class, and I'm going to encourage you to do the recap of this class. Take the recorded webinar on our YouTube channel. So we have Candid has a YouTube channel. You go to YouTube and pop in, when you do the channel search, just type in Candid. We're not the dental company. We're the philanthropy outfit. But when you look at our videos, you'll find a recording of Introduction to Corporate Giving. So you can use the handouts that came with the webinar today in your quiet time to take the class again. And one of those handouts is a handout that I'd encourage you to use with your colleagues back in the office, or share it on Zoom and have a Zoom brainstorming session. That handout, which we'll take a look at, helps list some leading questions to get you to talk as a group about which companies might be good allies for your work. Again, today, think about these corporates. You want the cash, of course, cash is great. But if you can't get cash, let's look at non-cash contributions that corporations can make to your organization. So, and again, to research these corporations, to research particularly the privately owned businesses, one point, you have to be in a good business library, which is usually in a major public library. You've got to take a look at some of the directories. If you can't get into a public library, then certainly start out by trying to figure out where the Chamber of Commerce is. Usually on a Chamber of Commerce's website, they proudly proclaim who their businesses are. All right, so corporate philanthropy is very different from private foundations and the way private foundations, particularly the family foundations, give back in America. Corporate philanthropy is very closely tied to what a company's interests are. And you've got to include the bottom line, a company's profits, when you look at their corporate philanthropy. Two completely different animals from private foundations. Although some companies set up company-sponsored foundations that operate completely separately from the corporation. So we want to look at your nonprofit organization from a corporate viewpoint. How is that corporate group, that company, how does that company perceive your nonprofit? What's in it for them, the corporation, to be working with your particular nonprofit organization? And we can just start with reason one and don't stop until you have 100 reasons why that corporation should be working with you. Companies support nonprofits in many, many different ways. When I look at private foundations, it's usually a grant. Sometimes private foundations will give a loan, but when we look at private foundations, it's a grant. It's not for charity. Private foundations give grants to nonprofits if the nonprofits are helping to support a private foundation's philanthropic goals. Corporations are going to support you because aligning their company name with your nonprofit and your community helps them meet their bottom line. So many different ways for companies to support nonprofits. Cash, non-cash. Most of the corporate giving is cash, and we started to divvy up what type of cash gifts they give. But non-cash cannot be excluded when you start to look at companies in terms of their partnerships with you. And again, non-cash is going to be products, like product donations, equipment donations, sponsorships, and loaning of talent. Loaning, that's like pro bono. Getting the companies to volunteer for you is a great way to build a buzz about what a great job you're doing in your community. So companies are motivated by their own interests. Play the WIFM game, W-I-F-N, what's in it for me? You write down all of the reasons why your nonprofit should be working with Citibank or JP Morgan or some big multinational that's headquartered in your town. What do you bring to the table as a nonprofit? And when you're building your board, if you're starting your nonprofits, fantastic. You get to attract the best possible board members. If you've been running a nonprofit for 20 or 30 years, look at your bylaws. They'll tell you how many people you can have on your board. Have those conversations at the board level. Should you be expanding your board list to include some board members who serve in a corporation, or some board members who have really, really deep corporate community connections? So this whole 360 here. How do we want to involve our nonprofit in the world of corporations? Today's class is about getting corporate gifts. So there are many other classes that you should be taking this summer. I'm going to highly recommend Introduction to Fundraising Planning, because that class allows you to view the monies coming in fundraising wise that are supporting you. It allows you to figure out how we're going to develop a fundraising plan for 2021, meaning, how much individual, corporate gifts, foundation gifts, government grants, and earned income should be coming into my organization. And we do have, if you're more of a click-through tutorial person on grantspace.org, you will see we've got a self-paced e-learning tutorial called Building Corporate Sponsorships. I'm going to do one last click. The exercise: is your organization ready to seek corporate support? I want to show you the handouts first. Okay, we don't need my PowerPoints anymore. I'm going to kind of close those out. Now, are you looking at a handout right now that says Candid Introduction to Corporate Giving Worksheet? Sorry, I should have looked at the chat box. Does anybody have any questions? We have time for questions, but what we should be looking at now is a handout that says Introduction to Corporate Giving Worksheet. This is the handout that you can use as a tool to help your group brainstorm about possible corporate partners. This is in addition to spending the time using Foundation Directory Online Essential this summer. So, first of all, I want to know what kind of nonprofit you are. Are you a legal 501c3? Perfect if you're a legal 501c3. If you're not, then we're going to talk about fiscal sponsorships or which nonprofits you're partnering up with. But best possible situation when you seek corporate support is you're representing a 501c3 organization today. So what audiences and constituents, stakeholders, if you don't like the word constituents, cross it out right now and put in stakeholders. What audience and stakeholders do you share with these companies? And I'm like, is that a bank that your community, has bank accounts with? What audiences do we share? If I'm representing, going to look at food. If I'm representing Goya Foods, we're going to look at your community. Is there a similarity between what Goya Foods is all about and who buys it? What culture, what foods are there? This we're going to think about, because each of you on the call today is representing a slightly different audience or constituents. Why would companies want to connect to your stakeholders? And then, if we were in class together, there would be a big pause at this point until somebody came up with at least one reason why a company would want to connect to your constituents. Do you represent Americans who are over the age of 50? Are there any companies that might naturally want to gravitate to Americans 50 and above who buy certain types of products? Are there companies out there where the folks who buy their products are like age 15 to 30 or 15 to 25? So, who'd want to connect to your stakeholders? Do you address issues of interest to the company? So I once helped like a major company that came to us and said, we are looking to connect with an environmental nonprofit way up in the northeast part of America, meaning I think they were talking about Maine. We want to find an environmental nonprofit in the state of Maine to work with us. And they didn't say what they wanted to do with that nonprofit. So, we actually showed this marketing person representing a major company that everybody's heard about. We showed them how to use one of our free database products to identify environmental organizations with headquarters in Maine. And the next thing I knew, like a year later, I was just, reading the newspapers. I was watching TV or something, and this company had some kind of promotional ad campaign featuring a nonprofit. And I was like, oh my gosh, they finally found an environmental group in Maine to work with. So, and when you look actually at what this company produces, how, what product they make, I could easily fit into like cold weather clothes in Antarctica or Maine, and their whole thing was the environment. So, do you have issues of interest to the company? So, in this case, it was a clothing manufacturer that wanted to align itself with a geographic area that was very cold that had environmental groups working on it. Because if you're working in the environment in cold areas, you've got to wear the proper equipment. How visible are you in the community? So these days, we all have to work much harder at telling our story to the communities that we serve and to the cities that we work in. How visible are you? A lot of times companies are going to want to partner up with you if you can prove to them metrics wise that people know who you are, that people are reading your newsletters and paying attention to what your executive director is saying. How visible are you? Not you personally, but how visible is your nonprofit in the community that you live in or that the community that you work in? And many of us work in several different communities. How big of an audience do you have? Again, how many people are using your website? How many Twitter followers do you have? How many Facebook followers do you have? How many people are watching your YouTube videos? If you have a newsletter, very important. How many subscribers do you have in that newsletter? Because that's a great way to promote like company's name who happens to be partnering with you. How big of an audience do you have? How would you get a company's name in front of the public? When I go to a lot of like local arts performances, a lot of times there's like something that you would call the playbill, the program sheet. And sometimes it's electronic. Other times it's more traditional. It's like a paper playbill that you're looking at. And, I'm flipping through it. I'm actually looking for which companies that these art performance groups have identified as sponsoring. If I go to their website, a lot of times you can see which companies are sponsoring performances. So how would you get a company's name in front of the public? That feeds back to your newsletters, the playbills. Even in the local schools here, sometimes I walk in and there's a big banner in the lobby proudly proclaiming that such and such firm is sponsoring the after-school program. That's cool. That banner is so big, you can't miss it when you're walking to the school to pick up your kid. That's a great way to promote that company's game. Also think local. I use the example of soccer leagues and baseball leagues. A lot of the performances are held in athletic fields that have fences. Now, I've seen, even at the local level, the athletic recreational nonprofits getting companies like smaller family-owned businesses in the neighborhood to sponsor their league. And each company gets a banner that they get to put on the fence, and everybody sees. And then you go to the company's website and you can see a list of companies that have sponsored it. So how do you get the company's name in front of the public? What companies are in your backyard? Yeah, I do want that list from you. I want to know the private companies in your backyard, which is, going to be your city that you're operating in, or your region. Which major companies have subsidiaries or divisions that are headquartered in your neck of the woods, and who's got headquarters where you are. So we do need to do an environmental scan of the companies in your neighborhood. Now, yeah, how do you strive to enhance the local community? You'd have to answer this question anyway. You would answer this if you were writing a proposal to a private foundation. But this worksheet allows you to get your thoughts on paper before you have to go sit in like a branch manager's office to pitch the work of your nonprofit. How deep is your network of community leaders? So, simple. It's only 2 pages here, but it does ask you to respond to questions that they may not be asked of you using the language that is on this worksheet, but you're going to be asked these questions. The second handout you have is the Introduction to Corporate Giving. These are your notes from today's class. I kind of hope that you're not taking a lot of notes with a golf pencil right now, but we did pre-can the notes for today's class in this 2-pager labeled Introduction to Corporate Giving. So this is going to break down for you, quick recap. More corporate giving is in cash versus non-cash. Cash can be defined as private foundation grants coming out of company-sponsored foundations, corporate contribution programs, sponsorships, cause-related marketing, as in this is actually more kind of a sophisticated partnership, but what's in it for that company to actually align the corporation with the cause that you serve. Matching gifts to employees. Non-cash, product donations, pro bono services, employee volunteerism, space. The list of non-cash could go on. Maybe you get that company to print your newsletter. This sheet outlines, gives you a quick recap of why companies give. And then it reminds you kind of like to know which corporations are in your neighborhood. So I'm going to quickly go to Foundation Directory online. This is essential. I'm actually on my account, not the New Jersey State Library's account, but this is the product. New Jersey is reopening, but I think if you're in an office situation, you're probably still working remotely this week. You can connect through the New Jersey State Library website through Foundation Directory Online Essential. Really easy to use this tool. You just type out a sentence and tell the computer what you need money for. Animal shelters in Trenton, New Jersey. Food pantries in Red Bank, New Jersey. Or it might be charter schools in New Jersey. Everybody's different. Now, we're talking about corporate giving today, so you're going to tease out the corporate donors from this. You've got to use the advanced search features, and you've got to click twice. So I clicked once, and the advanced search feature box opened up. I need to use the additional filters to develop my searches at home for corporate givers. So you can go into this, take a look at transaction type. Companies give cash. That's, I rarely use cash here because this whole database is developed for cash gifts, but sometimes foundations and corporates give contracts, but what we're looking for is this. Transaction type, employee matching gifts, employee volunteer programs, employee related scholarships. So this is good. So by the way, if you've got a high school student at home, the first thing I'd tell you is, where does your family work? Anybody working for a business that has an employee related scholarship program? So transaction type, when you set your search up, this is, and you're going to have, let's see, I will try to put all 3 of these on here. Now, what else can we do? In-kind gifts. Remember the non-cash? In-kind gifts could be donated art, donated equipment. Wow, donated land. That's fantastic. Donated products, use of facilities. So I'm just going to click that. And then, what you're doing is just going through this list of transactions that philanthropy has with us. Oh, okay. Now remember, we're talking corporate today. Yeah, can I maybe pro bono services would be appropriate for corporates. Some foundations give that. And I'm going to ignore stock transfers and certificates and promissory notes because I just don't have the expertise in that particular field. But you can set it up like this. I popped in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When you see these types of transactions, it generally signals they could be corporates. And I'm going to, instead of saying Trenton or your county or your, even your congressional district, I'm going to pick the state first. And then I'm looking for this blue button that says search. If it doesn't work and I'm going to use the phrase stacking, I just stacked like 5 different transaction types. If I don't get good results, I might put them in individually. Okay, right here's 62. Not bad. Now, you're using Foundation Directory Online Essential. The professional level version of this database does allow you to cast a wider net. But 62, these, when I look at these, I should see some kind of corporate angle. I see, definitely that's a corporation. Is that Subaru in Camden? Definitely a corporation. So you're in at home, you can read through these 62 profiles. AT&T is, I want to say AT&T is everywhere. They're not everywhere, but they are everywhere. So they're headquartered in Dallas, but this is telling me that there's 559 grants or some of these employee volunteer services going into the state of New Jersey. I'm going to try this one, Subaru, because it says Camden, New Jersey. And here's, East Rutherford, New Jersey. So let's open up that one. Okay, so this outfit is located in Camden, New Jersey. I can click here and it does look like I'm going on Subaru's corporate website. And they have a kind of a philanthropy area of it. If I know a lot of people, I'm probably going to click on Who's Who. If I just need a phone number, I'd probably click under contact information. So without even reading the About Us, I think this is a corporate or company sponsored foundation. They gave to education, human services, and environment in the last 5 years. Those are like the 3 top areas they gave to. Maryland, let me move up. Yeah, I'm terrible with my left clicker, but New Jersey is here. They supported in the last 5 years 119 recipients in New Jersey, and they paid out 234 grants, totaling 1.4 mil. Most of the grants are tiny. That's what this bar tells me. Fewer of their grants are in the 5K to 10K range. So, what you have access to at home is very powerful. Whenever you pull your prospects, the first thing this product does, it takes the last 5 years of grants they paid out, and it does like a visual analysis for you. By the way, if you don't know what you're doing, you'll probably end up clicking this box. Is this a good prospect? This is a little test you can take to determine if Subaru is a good prospect for your nonprofit. But I'm scrolling through the profile. If I don't know who Subaru is, I'm probably going to click About them first. Well, they support, it says here they're a foundation. They support programs, youth-based environmental stewardship. Youth-based, that's pretty fancy, youth-based environmental stewardship and enhance the academic learning experience for youth. Background, 1984, New Jersey, they've been around a while. They have 4 formal program areas. Okay, they're being very transparent right here, coming around and saying they will match contributions made by employees of Subaru of America to nonprofits for a 1-year basis up to $2,000. Wow, up to $2,000 per employee per year. They have a memorial grant program. They have a partnership grants. And they have a scholars program. So, by the way, this box, other funders considered, this is called Predict Technology, where the software is literally trying to find prospects for you. How do I get into Subaru? Great, they've got this very detailed application process. Oh, email communication strongly preferred. So, make sure you've got folks who are comfortable with electronic communication there. Board meets twice a year. They've got deadlines here. They've got this initial approach. So I know I've got to go to their website to check out this online questionnaire. Who's who? Oh, okay. Now I'm peeved. Oh, I only see one person here listed as an officer. The donor, he's listed there again, or she's listed there again. Okay, they've got grants lists, but they're not big fans of social media. They're in Camden, so definitely when I go to their website, I need to get names. I actually do not want to just start off by emailing Foundation at Subaru. I'm going to go to their website and to see if I can get the names of real people to kind of talk to or investigate before I pitch to them. Now, I'm going to go to this part of the profile, funding interests. Subaru, definitely corporate. They've developed a company-sponsored foundation, but they're also corporate. What do they give to? It's going to tell us right here. And these are very diverse funding areas that they're supporting, from science to shelter and residential care and STEM, as well as animals and welfare, domesticated animals. They're giving all over the US. Now, New Jersey is here, but there are many other states they give to. So that 5-year, the visualization, there were some states that I could see were more heavily shaded than the state of New Jersey. Population groups they serve. Support strategies, that's fantastic. They do general support, but remember, this class is on corporate giving. So when you're playing with the database over the summer, we want to show you how to tease out the corporates. It's a company-sponsored foundation. So if you were confused when you saw Subaru and it took you to their corporate website, this is a for-profit business that took money out of the for-profit side of their business and used that as the endowment money to set up a company-sponsored foundation. The Subaru of America Company-Sponsored Foundation gets money each year from the for-profit business. And it's telling you right here in the profile, okay, so they're a company-sponsored foundation affiliated with, boom, Subaru of America. So this is, and the search we did to tease this out, we had to open up all of the advanced search features, and we focused on this, transaction type. And we said geographic focus. Literally, you're going to type in New Jersey. By saying that, you're literally telling the software to go through every single grant in the database that went into the state of New Jersey. You could narrow it and say Trenton or put the name of your county in, but your results will be smaller. So transaction type. What about this bar? Support strategies. So transactions are literally that. Are we asking them for cash, or are we asking them for employee matching gifts? If we're trying to tease out of this immense database the corporate donors, what I just showed you, going in by transaction type, is a great way to do that. Now I'm going to look at support strategy. I just started typing in sponsorships. Sponsorships. So this is the one I want. If I want to go up a level, maybe it's about financial stability. But if I said geographic focus New Jersey again, here's, by the way, if any of you work for your local congressional office, you can actually figure out what's happening in your congressional district grant-wise. So let's say, basically what I'm telling the computer now is who gives sponsorships within the state of New Jersey. 36. Now, some of these are going to be family-controlled foundations, because they can sponsor your events too, but most of these 36 will be businesses that have developed company-sponsored programs. Let me click this View All so you can see all 36 names. It's going to work for you at home the same way it's working for me. This will be a mix of private foundations that do sponsorships as well as the corporate. Columbia Bank, that one may be a little easier. It sounds like they're a bank to me, located in Fairlawn. Okay, top 3 things they funded last 3 years: human services, health, community and economic development. And yeah, that's fantastic. New Jersey is in heavier shading than, let's say, Florida. So much of their money is going here. Their grants are kind of small, but there are a handful, 28. There were 10K to 25K, and there were 21 grants in the last 5 years that were 25K to 50K. Again, you go through the funding interest to see what they fund. Okay, so they are affiliated with Columbia Financial. So if the name Columbia Bank Foundation didn't say company-sponsored foundations to you, this definitely will let you know you're dealing with a funder that's got a close relationship with its for-profit. What do they fund? A little bit of the background here. Okay, 2004. Still, well, they've been operating a few years. What are their program areas? And you know, sponsorships, when you go back to funding interests, our search was support strategy, sponsorship. So now I'm thinking, okay, I need to do a little more research to see how I can get my program sponsored by them as opposed to me getting a general operating support or a program support. But it is a company sponsored foundation. That is what this profile is telling you. It's telling you how to apply. It's giving you the names of officers as well as donors. Now, this part, the people part, who's who, is just to start for you. If you don't know any of these officers, I did see a website. I'm going to go to the website to see if I know any of the employees who work under those officers. Looks like under communications, we've got a couple of articles about them. Columbia Bank, they're in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. Great, we have a website. Now, again, how did we get there? Because when you're using Foundation Directory Online Essential to look for corporate donors, you must pull out all of the advanced search features. I did one just looking through transaction types, and the corporates will be fairly obvious here because most of them are going to start with the word employee. I went to support strategy, and I pulled sponsorships off this list. If you are ever FYI in an emergency fund situation, we have emergency funds right here. The other thing you can do, the third way to pull corporates out, is to go in by organization type. It's alphabetical. So corporate giving programs as grant makers will be at the top of this list. Select it. And then I see non-governmental organizations, grant makers. There's a little arrow. So I'm going to open up that arrow. I have to see foundations. There's another little arrow. And I'm going to pick company-sponsored foundations. So I've literally set the search up now to tease out the corporates. So the three ways to pull corporates. Try support strategy with the word sponsorships. Definitely go for a transaction type. Pick the transaction types that have the word employee in them. Third way is to use this organization type field and literally pick the corporates, corporate giving programs and company sponsored foundations. Then we're going to put in, okay, let's see what we get when we say Trenton, because we're in Trenton today. Fewer. I would have gotten more if I'd said New Jersey. The safe thing to do in geographic focus is to always start at the safe level. So it just went through every single grant that went into the city of Trenton, New Jersey, going back to like 2003. And it only pulled the grants if we determined there was a corporate giving program that gave it or a company sponsored foundation gave it. Get 151, not bad. Actually, I don't want to go back to 2003, so I'm going to kind of cheat just a little bit and use this slider bar to say, I don't have time to go through 151. Only give me the corporates who paid out grants to Trenton, New Jersey, beginning 2013 through 2020. It's going to show me what I did there. Fantastic. Didn't take out that many. I've still got a nice group of 113 grant makers to look at. Now remember, this is very narrow. We're saying Trenton, New Jersey. So the software is only looking at grants that went in to Trenton, New Jersey. But I've got 113 corporates. Wow. Okay, a warning about Amazon Smile. 89 grants totaled $5,506. We need to do a better job. If you have friends and relatives who are buying stuff on Amazon Smile, now the search was Trenton, New Jersey. This is showing you that the nonprofits in Trenton, New Jersey could be doing a better job telling their friends and relatives who buy off of Amazon to designate the grants for their organizations. I'm going to click amount funded because I want to know which corporate put the most amount of money into Trenton. Got this outfit called Horizon. Is that like an insurance company? I'd have to open this up to figure it out. They literally, since 2013, put 2.2 mil divided between 20 grants. Okay, Bristol Myers. New Jersey's big with the pharmaceuticals, 5 grants totaling 2 million. Okay, so they're corporate offices in New York City, but they put a lot of money into Trenton. Prudential, yay! Prudential, 57 grants totaling 1.3 mil. So when you're at home, you're seeing exactly what I'm seeing. By the way, when you're at home using this, you can click chat now, or at the bottom of the screen, you should see chat with an expert. If it's Monday through Friday and you're using this like between 9 and 5, if you click chat or chat with an expert at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, you can get our own employees to help you out with the search. So we do try to help you directly when you're using this. If it's 10 o'clock tonight and you're using this, when you click chat with an expert, you're going to fill out a form. And when I get to the office the next day at 9, we're going to start responding to the questions. So Prudential, definitely, I think this is a corporation. I can go to their website. That would, definitely clear it for me. Prudential looks like they give nationally, but the state of New Jersey, there's a lot of Prudential money going into the state of New Jersey. This is going to take the last 5 years of the grants and tell you what are they funding to a larger amount and what are they funding arts and culture to the smaller amount. How big are the grants? Meaning how large are their grants? Funding interest, definitely click view all to see what else they fund. It's also telling you, wow, if we couldn't figure it out, they're affiliated with Prudential Financial. This is definitely a company sponsored foundation that we're dealing with. By the way, the software just tried to find some more corporate prospects for me. Not all of these are corporate, but several of them were. How do I apply? Well, definitely I need names. I need to go to their website to figure out how I can get on Prudential's list, because they're kind of telling me unsolicited applications will not be accepted. So I need to know if I've got anybody on my team who's got to connect to Prudential. Lots of board members. Let's see the donors. Definitely 2 corporates are the chief donors to this Prudential Foundation. Communications. Okay, we got lots of news stories listed for them. Contact. Okay, it's an email. I'm definitely going to their website to see if I can come up with names. I always like to have names when I look at this. So, again, you're working with Foundation Directory Online, essential until the world reopens and we can get back into the New Jersey State Library. This product does a fantastic job helping you identify private foundations. In the context of corporate foundations, the results that I'm seeing today are pretty good for the state of New Jersey, as well as we can kind of go down to the state level to your counties and your cities. Trenton, 113 corporate grant makers. It's a start to find at least who the possibilities are, which corporates are already supporting your part of New Jersey. So definitely when we're working on lists for New Jersey, start with New Jersey as a state, then go down to the city, town level, then try the search again and see, if a county level approach and geographic focus is better. If you are working in some other country, like let's say you're an international nonprofit, same search. I just did a regional approach somewhere in the world, or I can do another country there to see how many corporates are investing in South America. Now I have 170 corporate prospects who are investing in South America. So this is going to work beautifully for the state of New Jersey. It's going to work beautifully anywhere within the United States. And if your work is international, you can definitely use geographic focus to see which corporates are donating overseas. So I didn't see any questions today. I'm going to do a quick time check. I believe we have 10 more minutes. Do we have any questions?
All right. Thank you, Susan. Yes, if anybody has any questions, please submit them using the question box in the dashboard, and we will wait a few minutes and see if any come in.
Okay,
So
great.
you did a fantastic job, Susan. Very informative.
Just this should make you happy. When we look at the grants 2013 to 2020, I think, it just disappeared from my screen. Let's see, yeah, the corporate, there were 84,000, but when I use organizational type, we're going to look at the count for all the corporates in here. Just so that you know, this database is a start, and you're going to use it remotely until we can get back into the library. So, 2,782 corporate grant makers giving their money wherever they give it. you can definitely start using this for your corporate list. Now we're going to see what we're looking at. Yeah, 827. That's actually a lot of prospects. These are the 827 corporates in the database that are supporting New Jersey. So this is definitely in the time we have left to work remotely before everybody's open again. You have time to sift through this group of corporate grant makers to see if there are any good matches for you. Of course, the reality is what you're going to be doing are setting up searches saying, oh, maybe it's arts and culture, and you're an arts and culture group in New Jersey looking for corporate support. Now you've got 178 prospects. Maybe you're a group that works with children and youth, and you're looking as a population group, and you're looking for corporate support. I have 434 grant makers. If children and youth isn't the population group served, maybe you are serving seniors and older adults, and you need a corporate sponsor or some kind of corporate relationship. I've got 96 grant makers who give in the state of New Jersey who their giving focuses on older adults or seniors. And you see some foundations, some corporations will show up in many of your searches. Others are going to be very, very specific. If you are representing, just FYI, a religious group today, we can set this up and say, you know what? Are there any corporations that support Catholics? Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Catholics in New Jersey. Got 139. So remember, causes. There may be some causes that you can connect to specific religious groups. So population served when you're at home. If there is a specific population group you serve, go for it. Check it out. So maybe it's people with physical disabilities that you serve. What's the prospect for you as a nonprofit of getting corporate support? Got 109. So, this is a decent pool to start looking for. And I said people with disabilities. So if you're running a nonprofit where there is indeed a specific population group served, definitely go in and see. I'm going to try military personnel now. Remember, we're focusing on the state of New Jersey, looking for corporate support. Military personnel, state of New Jersey. I definitely have organization type 23. So the numbers just got smaller. So some population groups will have fewer numbers, but 23 is still pretty good. Always click on amount funded because that resorts your list. So we can see here, Coca-Cola is the largest corporate, meaning they put $1 million in one grant. I would love to know who got $1 million from Coca-Cola, but that grant helped military personnel. That's Walmart, 2 grants totaling $476,000 for something tagged for the military personnel as a population group. We can definitely do gender and sexual identity. We can go and say, health is what people with disabilities were under. Let's see, we can try this broadly, people with disabilities, people with diseases and illnesses. If you're working for a hospital or health group, definitely try a couple of different population groups, 78 corporates. So this number will change depending on what you're popping into the rest of this. Definitely for most of us, we have, let's try the environmental groups in New Jersey, corporate support. And I love to do these different look-sees because I want to get a count here, 200. I have 198 corporates who are investing in environment as a subject in the state of New Jersey. If you like to read your list alphabetically, just click here. I do like to sort my list by amount funded because I want to know which companies have put the most amount of money into New Jersey for some kind of environmental issue. PSE&G, Bank of America, there's an ocean first. Let's click view all. Now I have my list sorted by which companies put the most amount of money into New Jersey. for environmental issues. Well, as far, oh, Campbell's Soup. Oh, you knew Campbell's Soup was in Camden. I didn't know that. Oh, it's an interesting one. Conserve to Preserve Foundation. JP Morgan. So I got PSE&G, then there's New Jersey Gas Company, PNC, here's P&G again. We're gonna, tell, if people are buying stuff on Amazon, definitely tell them to attribute their sale to your nonprofit. 3M, Walmart, MetLife, Matrix, Integra, Chubb. So I've seen like First Energy, decent energy and gas is on this list. Finance is on this list. Oh, Yum Brands. Okay. GE. Some of these are really well-known companies. Okay, aspirin. And you know what it is now, unfortunately, at home, you won't be able to, let's say, click on PSE&G and go through all 135 grants. The product that is inside the New Jersey State Library actually has details and every single grant paid out. What you're doing at home is basically going through these profiles, trying to figure out if you're working in the environment in New Jersey, really, is Coca-Cola a good prospect for you? And again, if you're brand new to fundraising research, click this and respond to the questions in this little questionnaire that we've developed to help you determine if Coca-Cola is a good fit for you. So I'm assuming, I shouldn't assume, but let's say you are an environmental group in New Jersey looking for corporate support. This is telling me in the last 5 years in Jersey, Coca-Cola gave one grant to one recipient and it was $25,000. I thought they actually had a very large $1 million grant, but environment is the top third topic they funded in the last 5 years. Some of their grants are not little grants. Their grants are pretty big. And, I was like, do you look at geographic focus? I'm going to be more comfortable if I see New Jersey on this list. I see New York. I didn't see Jersey on this list, but I know they gave a grant in Jersey. Yeah, oh, biodiversity, that's environment. Clean water supply is environment. Definitely, I don't see environment broadly here, but I see that this list has kind of fine-tuned what they mean by environment. Biodiversity, clean water supply. Sanitation, rivers and lakes, other funders to consider. All right, if I'm an environmental group looking for corporate support in New Jersey, maybe I will look at these. Although when I look at these, they're probably not going to be the corporates. Just eyeballing, how do I apply? Good, great. Details on applications. Related organization, okay, yeah, Coca-Cola. Well, it's Coca-Cola, the company. So, again, you do need to play with FDO Essential, but you can use this product, which the New Jersey State Library is offering to you remotely. You can definitely use this to find private foundation prospects, but the searches we've done now, you can definitely use this product to tease out the corporates. Start with this product at the same time you're brainstorming about kind of which companies are in your neighborhood. You might see there's overlap, or when you brainstorm about corporations that are already in your neighborhood, you should find more companies. This is going to pick a corporate out for you if it's on the larger side. So it's a good way to start looking for corporate gifts. And remember, there are 3 ways to tease them out. You've got to use all the advanced search features. Look for sponsorships and support strategy. Look for transaction type. Literally pull the ones that say employees here. And you have to remember in kind. Lots of donated use of facilities. You set your search up like that. So 3 ways: look for sponsorships, do transaction types, pull the employees, look for in kind. And then the 3rd way is to use organization type, pick corporate giving programs. Then you've got to make your way down to non-governmental organizations, grant makers. You'll see the company-sponsored foundations under the word foundations. So this takes a little more effort because you've got to pull out a few more choices here, but it can be done. It's a start. And also, you're going to have to brainstorm. You're going to have to have a conversation with one of your business librarians about lists of companies in the state of New Jersey. Good thing is, I like chambers of commerces just to start eyeballing who's got those private businesses in your area. A start. Okay, so there is a YouTube channel. I'm going to recommend that you definitely take these handouts, watch the YouTube version of Introduction to Corporate Giving. Let a day go by and then watch it on YouTube. Definitely today if you can, tomorrow, the next day, go onto the New Jersey State Library website and find where Foundation Directory Online Essential is. Start using this. You can get help from the staff at New Jersey State Library, or you can click chat or chat with an expert at the bottom of the screen and get help from our employees. I did not show you grantspace.org today, but I'm going to put a little pitch in for grantspace.org. Our libraries are closed as well. You can use grantspace.org as your online fundraising library while we're all closed. I mean, this website is always around. I would definitely recommend you consider setting up a username and password to use this, because you'll want access here under sample documents to the real proposals, and you can ask our employees anything you'd like. As long as it's fundraising, philanthropy, nonprofit management related, you can get to us right over here. So we do have a fundraising website that's called grantspace.org. The online librarians can be accessed by using Ask Us. As you're developing your corporate list, definitely click Ask Us and give some of your questions to our staff, see what they can come up with for you. I'm going to do like a quick look at the chat box. Are there any questions? Let me just open it up.
No, we don't have any questions, so.
Thank you so much for spending your lunch hour with us today.
Yes,
It is much appreciated.
yes, and thank you so much, Susan. It was jam-packed with information, and I hope everybody will be able to use these resources to increase their funding and promote the missions that they're advocating for. So.
Andrew,
Yes.
can I mention something real quick?
Sure, absolutely.
Hi, this is Lee Clark. I'm the Business and Funding Information Librarian at the New Jersey State Library. In the chat box, there should be a link to where you can access FDO Essential. It's it's www.njstatelib.org/funding info. And that'll be included in the email that you get as a follow-up. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact the library. We're working from home, but we're here to help if you need anything.
Great, thank you. So, all right, well, thank you to everybody who attended. Thank you to our presenter, Susan, and everybody be safe and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Be safe, be well.